Good evening and welcome to eNews at 7. I'm Shahan Ramkisoon. It's great to have you with us. Our top stories tonight. Minister Bathabile Dlamini bans our cameras from the launch of the 16 Days of Activism campaign in KwaZulu-Natal. We'll tell you why in a moment.
Pray for peaceful, fair and just elections in 2019 and praying for God's guidance.
Corruption and crime highlighted as thousands gather for the National Day of Prayer. And European Union leaders approve a historic Brexit deal, but it's now up to the UK Parliament to accept it. Gauteng authorities are concerned about the recent spike in crimes against women and children. They're calling on communities to lead the fight and help support victims. Officials were speaking during the launch of the province's 16 Days of Activism campaign. Lindo Kulu reports.
These are the faces of some of the women and children who lost their lives in violent-related crimes this year, leaving families shattered. Most of the suspects have been men known to the victims. Another sad reality is that these faces are just a fraction of the number of victims of violence against women and children. The statistics speak volume, reflecting the reality of lives of South Africa's most vulnerable. As the Gauteng government launched 16 days of activism for no violence against women and children on Sunday, authorities have called on communities to lead the fight against the scourge.
Rape and abuse of abantwana nabomama. It needs all of us as a community to unite and deal with this problem.
Authorities have also called for support for those who break the silence.
That young brave lady, you used your power over me to abuse me for many years. You made me your slave. So for someone to get to that point, to be brave, there's a need of support from family, from community, and sometimes from counseling, which we provide.
The Department of Community Safety says it will be working with men and encouraging them to become promoters for the safety of women and children. Lindokuhle Xulu, Johannesburg.
Well, we can't tell you much about the national event because our cameras were not allowed in. eNCA is concerned about being banned from covering the launch of the 16 Days of Activism campaign. Minister of Women in the Presidency, Bathabile Dlamini, barred our team from entering the venue in KwaZulu-Natal, saying she was offended that she was being filmed at a public event. eNCA reserves the right to ask questions of any publicly appointed representative. As a member of the media, it's our constitutional right to operate freely and without harassment. Dlamini's communications team told our reporter the minister would only speak to the SABC because, quote, they knew the parameters. eNCA will be engaging with government communications on the matter. Our reporter Tuba Vilane explains what happened.
We arrived here around 9 in the morning and we were told that the minister was still engaged in other activities. And throughout that time, we've been communicating with her staff, and that we requested that if it's possible that we can have the interview before the minister comes to the hall. And then we all agreed. But when the minister came, it was only when our camera guy, Bongam Kize, was taking cutaways of the minister while she was walking to the hall, coming towards us. That's when the minister stopped and came to us and told us that she doesn't want Bonga to film her, and then she feels that she's being abused because she's a woman. While we were busy talking to the minister, a lady that has been described as a chief of staff came in as well and saying that what we are doing is not right. The minister is only going to speak to the SABC, and then she ordered us to leave.
Well, the South African National Editors Forum says Dlamini must explain herself.
course, the public broadcaster should be covering the campaign. There's no doubt about that. I mean, it's the public broadcaster. But eNCA equally should be covering the campaign. All media houses should be covering the campaign. It's a public event. There's no reason to say, that the SABC particularly understands the parameters. That isn't an excuse. And also, she needed to explain further. I mean, which particular parameters is she talking about? But basically, the issue is a public event needs to be open to the public, and the media makes sure that everybody can see and understand what's happening.
It was a day of prayer and reflection as around 140,000 congregants attended the National Day of Prayer at the FNB Stadium. Hosted by the Motsepe Foundation, religious leaders focused on crime, poverty alleviation and corruption. There was also prayer for successful land reform and a peaceful 2019 election.
Pray for the current land reform discussions to result in land being made available for black people living in the rural and urban areas and their communities, and for the successful, secure future for black and white farmers. Pray for peaceful, fair and just elections in 2019 and praying for God's guidance, leadership and blessing for a bright future for all South Africans.
Patrice Motsepe urged business people to contribute towards improving the lives of those in need.
I want all the people in our country who are unemployed, who are without hope, who are experiencing difficulties, who are seeking jobs, who are marginalized, they must know that there's a commitment amongst all of us, particularly those of us in business, to make a humble contribution, because if the poor people of South Africa, if the marginalized people of South Africa, if the unemployed people of South Africa have no future, those of us who are educated, who live a comfortable life, have no future. So we must make sure that we take the same energy and commitment that we do to build our businesses, to make a humble contribution so that the living conditions and the future of all our people can be better and can be bright.
Coming up, more on that headline story. European leaders have approved British Prime Minister Theresa May's Brexit deal. The question now is whether the UK Parliament will accept it. Welcome back. Investigations are underway into the possible poisoning of bees in and around Cape Town. Several million of the insects have been found dead in recent weeks. Leanne Jansen has the details.
These bees are here as pollinators, but they're dying off in their millions, sparking major concern among bee farmers.
The bees' role on this planet is as pollinators to help us have food security and to help plants reproduce.
Brendan Ashley Cooper is also a commercial farmer with thousands of hives across Cape Town. This is but one of them.
A week ago, we started getting calls that beekeepers were finding dead bees in front of their hives. I came to inspect my bee site and found similar results with thousands upon thousands of dead bees in front of a lot of my beehives.
It's believed that farmers in the area may be incorrectly using pesticides. Ashley Cooper alone has lost 2.5 million of his bees.
This looks to me from past experience to be poisoning of some sort, Leanne. It's a very intense poison that has killed the bees in a very short space of time.
He says farmers have been forthcoming though.
The farmers have been very concerned about the bee die-off. We're having meetings with the farmers within the next couple of days to have a look at if they have caused this problem and to see if we can find solutions.
Attempts to get comment from the Department of Agriculture have been unsuccessful. Leanne Jansen, Cape Town.
The family of former ANC President Albert Luthuli says it's positive the investigation into his mysterious death will be reopened. The Nobel Peace Laureate died in 1967 in what's believed to have been a train accident near his home. Family members are still not satisfied with that explanation. This emerged at the 14th Chief Albert Luthuli annual lecture at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. Bathabile has more.
Another annual lecture in honor of former ANC leader Albert Luthuli. The Bathabile community, academics and UKZN students have all come in to reflect on the legacy of the Nobel Peace Laureate. Non-violence and integrity are some of the values Luthuli is remembered for. Chief Justice Mogoeng has delivered this year's memorial lecture. He says leaders such as Luthuli would be surprised some of the challenges are yet to be addressed.
I'm open to my white compatriots because I love them, genuinely, whether they believe it or not. But I'm not going to say to them that there is no racism in South Africa. There is. Otherwise, the previously excluded from the mainstream economy would, after 24 years, be captains of industries in their numbers.
Chief Luthuli was the ANC president from 1952 until his death in 1967. 51 years later, his family is still raising questions about his death.
Many South Africans believe that Baba Luthuli did not make an accident. For example, we had a very brutal regime, the apartheid regime, that was notorious for killing many leaders, many activists, many people that were struggling against the apartheid system.
The family has vowed to do whatever it can to have the investigation reopened. Bathabile, Durban.
Further afield now, Zimbabwean members of parliament have urged President Emmerson Mnangagwa to respect and protect opposition lawmakers. This after female legislators were hurt during scuffles with police inside parliament. Our correspondent Pindai Dube has the details.
Trouble started when Zimbabwe's Speaker of Parliament, Jacob Mdenda, ordered all to rise for the president. The incident took place during the annual budget presentation by Finance Minister Mthuli Ncube. However, opposition MPs refused, saying they don't recognize Mnangagwa because the country's July polls were rigged. Police were then called in to eject them. Some of the injured MPs were hospitalized. The lawmakers say they shouldn't be forced to be respectful to Mnangagwa.
We cannot be intimidated, man. From parliament, what kind of a parliament is this? What kind of democracy? We have a right as women to be here. So they came and manhandled my Honorable Bukori. After manhandling her, then she got injured.
We don't know whether there was a feeling versus Mapi. Look at Bukari.
Grabbing power. Parliament has got no jurisdiction to respect the president. We've got three arms of the state, the executive, parliament and judiciary. If I'm an MP and I walk into a court, the court doesn't raise up. You don't force people to respect you. Respect is end.
The speaker was quoted as saying action will be taken against those who failed to rise. Mudenda claims it was an attempt to delegitimize the elections. Pindai Due, Harare, Zimbabwe.
Almost 18 months after the United Kingdom voted to leave the European Union, the Brexit plan has been given the nod. European leaders have approved British Prime Minister Theresa May's deal. It allows the UK to withdraw from the EU on the 29th of March. But the deal still has to be approved by the British Parliament. Many UK MPs have already promised not to back it.
Today marks the culmination of a long and difficult process of negotiation between the UK and the EU. There were those who said that reaching a Brexit agreement that worked for both sides was an impossible task. From the start, I rejected that counsel of despair and set about negotiating a deal that worked for the UK and the EU, one that delivered on the result of the referendum and set us on course for a prosperous future, while maintaining a close relationship with our friends and neighbours. Thanks to the hard work of both sets of negotiators, that is what we have today agreed.
After the break, your weather details, and then it was all about music, food, art and fashion at the THIS the Culture Festival in Khayelitsha.
To the weather center, we are going to start off Monday with isolated thunderstorms going on across the northwest, maybe spilling into Gauteng and the northern areas of the Free State. It will also be cloudy with light rain for the southern areas of the Eastern Cape ahead of this cold front. Then later on in the afternoon, we are going to see thunderstorms spreading into much of eastern South Africa and also into the eastern sections of the northern Cape. It will be cloudy with light rain for the south coast and the adjacent interior. Then in the evening, we stay with fairly unsettled weather for the eastern areas, and it will also be cloudy and wet for the southern parts of the country. Now, on Monday, we are going to see isolated thunderstorms over the eastern areas of the northern Cape. Upington and Presidency will get away with partly cloudy skies, warming to a sizzling 36 degrees on Monday afternoon. It's going to be dry for the bulk of the western Cape, mild for Cape Town with a high of 23, but there will be a chance of light rain from Hermanus through the south coast into George, where a high of 21 is forecast. We are expecting thunderstorms to persist over the northern and eastern parts of the eastern Cape, where it's going to be warm to hot. It will be cooler, however, for the southwestern sections where light rain is forecast in some areas. It's going to stay pretty unsettled for much of KwaZulu-Natal with warm to hot afternoon temperatures persisting for the province. We are also expecting stormy weather across the Mpumalanga province, pretty hot for Mbombela with a high of around 36 degrees. Sunny and sizzling hot weather continues for eastern Limpopo. Thunder showers will continue over the western areas. We are going to stay with stormy weather as well for much of the northwest, where highs in the upper 20s and lower 30s are expected. The Free State will see isolated to scattered thunderstorms, and it's going to be warm in most areas across the province. Gauteng should also see thunderstorms on Monday, with highs in the upper 20s and lower 30s. Now, looking ahead to your Tuesday, we are going to see isolated to scattered thunderstorms persisting over central and eastern South Africa. It will be cloudy and rainy for East London, Port Elizabeth and George. Then on Wednesday, thunder showers continue over the northeastern areas. It will be cloudy and rainy for parts of KwaZulu-Natal. Just a few showers around Port Elizabeth and George.
The sixth installment of the THIS the Culture Festival has taken place in Cape Town. The lifestyle and entertainment event celebrates Khayelitsha's diverse history by infusing music, food, art and fashion. RTM Tungana has the details.
Celebrating township culture, that's what the THIS the Culture Festival is all about.
We saw a gap in the market where we thought, you know what, we deserve a lifestyle festival in the townships, because I believe we have those influences in townships now. We have people who are obviously middle class and are partly mobile. So how about we create a lifestyle festival for them in the townships, not for them to go out of the township to actually enjoy themselves.
Patrons got to explore how best to enjoy cognac and whiskey while being entertained by live bands and a display of fashion.
Yeah, I am a regular patron here at Rand, and I'm here because it's not just about partying, but they give us a lifestyle.
I think it's very important for young people to come out and show support for our Khasis. I think it's really great for black business. We see a lot of political talk on township entrepreneurship, and I think this is a microcosm today of South Africa.
Tourists from other countries also got to enjoy the festivities.
South African tourism are support that brought us all here, because we are both Nigerians and Ghanaians here.
South African hip-hop artists like AKA also featured amongst the entertainment. Tim Tongana, Cape Town.
Here's a reminder of our top stories before we go. Minister Bathabile Dlamini bans our cameras from the launch of the 16 Days of Activism campaign in KwaZulu-Natal.
Pray for peaceful, fair and just elections in 2019 and praying for God's guidance.
Corruption and crime highlighted as thousands gather for the National Day of Prayer. And European Union leaders approve a historic Brexit deal, but it's now up to the UK Parliament to accept it. From me, Shahan Ramkisoon and the rest of the team, good night.